News which is very material for the auto sector. It seems like it's the end of the road for Nano. Hormazd Sorabjee, who's the Autocar India editor, joins in. The Tatas are to put brakes on Nano's production. Hormazd, this is going to be seen, I think, positively by the markets because, this goes pretty much in tandem with Tata Motors' long-term strategy of, getting into a turnaround mode. They only shared that a couple of months back, but it would be nostalgic because they were trying to break ground with Nano's rollout on the roads.
Yeah, I think absolutely because, the car was launched with huge fanfare. It was really a lot of hype and very like a rock star reception it got at the Auto Expo in 2008. And frankly, there was a lot of potential the car had. I mean, if you look at it, the way it was positioned as a four-wheel alternative for people on bikes. So I think, it came with hope. It came with a lot of expectations. But in the end, it was a car that never was. I think it was the car that millions really didn't want for various reasons. A lot of it being not really the Nano's doing. You had the dislocation of the plant from Singapore to Sanand. You had some marketing issues, the way it was positioned as a cheap man's car. Then you did have other problems like the fire. So a lot of things, went against it. And it never really recovered from that kind of body blow.
Yeah, indeed. Hormazd, when do you expect a formal announcement coming in? Because, the market was expecting this is going to come in at some point. This was already in the works. But when do we hear a formal announcement to this extent?
I think logically there should be one today at the AGM later on in the day. I think that's probably a correct place to make a formal announcement. Because I think everyone knows that, the Nano is at the end of the road. They only produced 50 last month. The month before, only one was sold. So really, there's really not much demand for it. The Sanand plant where it's being made, that's now being geared up for other models to come in there. So I think it's just a pretty natural thing to happen. And above all, this segment seems to be shrinking quite a bit. The segment the Nano is in, it's sort of shrunk by 6%. It's in fact one of the segments that's actually showing signs of negative growth. The Renault Kwid in that segment also has, kind of shrunk. Ready Go is not doing too well. Hyundai are going to discontinue the Eon. So I think it's a factor of all these things which pretty much has the writing on the wall for the Nano. And I think what's really killed it finally is the safety norms which come into effect in October 2019. I don't think the company will wait that long to kind of pull the plug on it. They might do it before, possibly by the end of the financial year. But I think that's really the absolute deadline because it would take hundreds of crores to make the Nano, let's say, fit for the new safety regulations, and it's really not worth it, that investment. So I think, the safety norms is really what's done it.
Bit nostalgic as well because I remember when the Nano was launched, it became a case study for a lot of business schools overseas on how the budget was prepared to keep this as a low-cost car. But what does it do for Tata Motors, Hormazd? Would it be the saving grace that the business needs right now? And would you, in a way, be very optimistic about them being forthright and admitting that they made a few mistakes and they're putting the checks and balances in place to ensure their turnaround?
I think there were a lot of mistakes in Nano, and I think, as I said, some of them are very fundamental and they really kind of made it kind of just dealt a body blow right from the start from which it never recovered. But I think the key thing over here is to understand how the car business works. You need economies of scale. One of the problems with the Nano was it was a standalone platform. You need to share platforms across body styles, and in fact, that's what Tata Motors has done. Now they've gone from multiple platforms down to just two platforms. So you'll have one SUV platform, which is the Omega platform, and the car platform, which is the Alpha platform. And on these two platforms, you'll see their new models coming up. And clearly the Nano was out of sync with this. It was a standalone platform. And, to make a single car or a unique body style on a standalone platform, you just don't have the economies of scale. It's just the way the car business works. And I think, what Tata Motors said, that they did want to streamline their products to two platforms. That's what they're doing right now.
Hormazd, thanks very much for putting things in perspective. Tata's to discontinue Nano. Hormazd says the announcement will come in as early as today itself at the AGM. And this will work in, I think, quite pleasantly for investors into the Tata Motors stock, because, you know, if they are bringing about changes in their strategy and if they're looking at turning around the business, then one is hopeful, given their track record in the past, that things may look up for Tata Motors in general, because they come on the back of a ranked underperformance for the stock. So they really need to get that confidence from investors and need to put a strategy in place to do so.